Hello, everyone. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to remind you that my book, Drummers on Drumming, is available now on Amazon as both a paperback and an ebook. Based on the Big Fat Five segment of this podcast, where I sit down with my favorite drummers to discuss the 5 records and stories that shaped their approach to the instrument, this book is packed with insights from the drummers who redefined how we think about the modern drum set. You can grab your copy now by checking the link in this episode's show notes or simply searching Drummers on Drumming on Amazon. So thank you for all the support, and now let's get into the show.
There's, again, built-in lesson layers in these things that I learned from a young age, just out of default, like just trying to struggle to emulate this or copy that.
Man, your vocals of just you mouthing drums feels so much better than my actual playing. It's so annoying. Hello. My name is Ben Hilsinger, and you are listening to the Big Fat Snare Drum Podcast and my squeaky chair. This week's guest is Randy Cooke, and I think I should stop saying this because I'll be honest, I really only bring in my favorite players, but Randy is no exception. I certainly fluff him up at the beginning of our interview, but he just has everything you want in a drummer that plays behind you. He's so song-focused, and as he states, it's not about playing more things, it's about playing the right thing. His resume includes Ringo Starr, Mick Jagger, Alanis Morissette, Dave Stewart, and believe me, many, many more. So keeping with the theme of this season, Randy breaks down the top drumming moments that shaped his style. Cheers. All right, I'm here with Randy Cooke. Thanks for being on the show, man.
Thanks for having me, Ben. Nice to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you on because you just feel good. You're just I've gone down a rabbit hole, many rabbit holes of your videos, and you just feel.
Oh, you mean drumming? Sorry, I thought.
Yeah. Okay, let's just push record real quick. I'm here with Randy. No. Yeah, dude. You are that guy that just mixes himself, and I have played shows with you, and from side stage, it sounds like you're this perfectly mixed drummer, and I so admire your playing. So let's just jump into it, man. So this is going to be the top 5-ish drumming moments in either a recording or performance that kind of made you who you are as a drummer today. So yeah, let's just give me the first one.
All right, the first one is a drum fill moment on a Ricky Lee Jones album. Of course, the drummer, I know, I'm probably the millionth person to go on and on about this guy, but it's Steve Gadd, and it's a drum fill at around the 155 mark, and the beauty of this fill and how it affected me when I heard it was overwhelming because I realized he had taken a little bit of his 50 ways, elements and put it into a 2-beat drum fill. And, we could go on for an hour and talk about 50 ways and how iconic that drum beat is. But I think one little aspect goes over a lot of guys' heads who maybe don't go down the YouTube rabbit hole and look at how he did it, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. But many times Steve played a hi-hat foot before a hi-hat if he wanted 2 16th notes. And this is paramount. My eyes are like, what? And when you hear the fill, you can hear ghost note snares and ghost note hi-hats, but the hi-hats sound different because one isn't being hit by a stick. But they're so close together, but it created this bizarre, it just sounds like different samples, but because he's playing, this foot closed hat before he hits it. So instead of going, it's foot hit. And the fill moment also in this song, in Chucky's in Love, is the song.
Okay.
It's amazing because as drummers, all we do, our job is, here comes a new section, play a drum fill. And what do? We hit the toms, big crash at the end. It works. It's been done before. We'll do it again. But this fill, there's no toms, there's no drum fill. It's a drum fill, but it's a piece of a groove with an open hi-hat in. And it says more. It speaks volumes and is so huge into the next verse, whereas you're like, oh my God, I would have never done that. I never would have done it in a million years. Sure. I would have maybe done as musical a simple fill as I could, but first of all, he built in technically very difficult things into 2 beats of this song. It's actually a very hard thing to do what he's doing. That's number one.
Yeah.
So that became a drum lesson. In that itself, learning the sticking, slowing it down, playing it smoothly, building up the tempo, that gave me like actual, it honed skills in my playing. Like it actually, and it made me think about my hi-hat foot. It made me think about, it's just not something I'm smashing on. I never really delved into jazz. So, as a pop sort of based player, your hi-hat foot is there for time, and it doesn't really do anything else rhythmically, know. But this was integral. The way he uses his hi-hat foot, and of course, this was about 79. This release, I checked. 50 Ways was 1975. Okay. So this is still an old. This is 4 years after he'd been famous for that drum beat. But he managed to take a tiny element. It doesn't sound like that drum beat at all.
Sure.
But it's unbelievable. That's just a beautiful musical moment where, what can work in terms of opening your mind as far as setting up a new section as a drummer. Because we're inundated with like this is what we've grown up hearing. Drum fill. It's just another way. So it sort of blew my mind a little bit. Like I thought, why does that work so well? Because it just does. It's it was just perfect for the moment and not typical of a drum fill.
It's so funny because you only have 4 limbs and your left foot is just such. I think maybe for me, I'll just speak in my experience. It just a foot stomp is so quiet. And growing up, like my right, everything else can be so loud. And so you're like, well, the best thing this can do is maybe one of those like stomps where it's kind of like the
splash.
The splash, yeah.
Sure,
but it's what's this little dude? What's his purpose? I can't hear him anyway, so why would I focus on that? I want to focus on my crash ride. But let's listen to it. So it's Chuck E's in Love. I don't know this song. I'll be honest.
It's unbelievable. It's so good.
Where is it so people can check it out on their own?
The breakdown starts at about 1:40, 1:45. Okay. It's a breakdown just before verse 2. And you'll hear how he brings the band in.
I love it.
On verse 2.
No, don't come here no more. But I tell you what, I saw him. He was sitting behind.
Do you understand how Okay, so just so you know.
Yeah.
This isn't the days of records. Do you know how many times and how much precision you need to move a needle back 100 times? Like,
yeah.
Just think about the era that you're in. And I was still late to the game as far as, I wasn't I'm not that old, but I still I was playing that on a record. So to hear a drum part over and over again, you had to lift a needle over and I went back too far. Like it was a grueling couldn't slow it down digitally. Had none of the tools that we have today. So really you had to, your ears had to train them pretty good,
And that just shows how, again, I'll speak from my experience, how good Gad is, because there's a whole lot of space before that. So he's just sitting there in the recording. It's like when you're doing a track and someone gives you like a 4-bar count in before you like just start me right before. Right. I don't want to like psych myself out. And then it's just like he does it, but of course, probably first take, probably
my God.
Hungry and hangry and just
whatever. No doubt.
That's so alpha too. I mean, like you can think of just like the biggest double bass insert here, but that fill is just
right.
The most confident, badass thing you can do.
It could have been a big tom thing, like not big, but like it could have been doom, doom, doom.
Yeah.
But he does this thing that's like, what is this thing you're doing? And it's perfect. It's perfect. Not to mention, I just want to also say that the sound. I know a lot of guys talk about their favorite fill moments, favorite groove moments, and we're going to get into some more of my favorite groove moments, but the sound of drums also affected me a lot. And Steve Gadd was always known for sort of meatier, drier, thicker snare sounds. And, and in a world, through the 80s and 90s where everybody was buying piccolo snare drums and cranking the crap out of their drums, here was this guy playing on everybody's records with this thud, this dry, like, wallet on the head thing. Yeah. And it just spoke to me. For some reason, that always, I love and adore all the other drum sounds in their elements. Mm-hmm. But I also, that spoke to me a lot in terms of songwriting and what fits great in a song. That did. Like, not a snare with a lot of ring, not a snare tuned up real high. It's a ballad. It's a slow swung ballad. So, that works the best. And sometimes I think we overlook that aspect of playing live or recording. We might have a favorite snare sound, but that might not necessarily be,
Yeah, well, there's a favorite snare that like feels good for me, which is that medium to high tuning. But it's crazy with his snare. It goes in and out of style when it comes to like the 90s. Yeah, it was definitely more high pitched. But even though it goes in and out of quote style, it's still timeless. When the other stuff that comes in and out isn't timeless.
Yeah,
it's that could have been a recording from some indie band from last year, and they'd be like, oh, that sounds super current.
I know the production's amazing, and his drum sound is dry and in your face, and it's like. Yeah,
have you ever met Steve Gadd?
No, but I took a trip to New York when I was much younger. I was probably in my mid-20s, and in their version of the Entertainment Weekly or whatever, I saw the Gadd Gang playing at a little club, and I went and watched him play, in his band. And I can tell you that my musicality and my ears weren't trained enough then to really appreciate all of what he most likely did.
Yeah.
But I just remember even then being freaked out. And already, I'd already heard him on Chuck Mangione records, and like I'd heard him on other things that were equally as impressive for all the same reasons. The things he chose to play, the way he approaches music. Basically, it's basically it's more restraint than anything. Because if you see him solo, he's got chops, but he's just a guy that always chose to play the right thing as opposed to more things.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah,
that was a lesson for me.
Sure, the right thing instead of more things. That's good. But yeah, it's like a guy like him, you might not notice how amazing he is because when you see him live, before you can really put it all together, it just makes sense. Like, oh, no, that sounds perfect. And then you move on. But when you're like, to know how hard it is to make it sound perfect, that's when you're like, okay, yeah, he's the best.
Absolutely.
All right. If you're ready, number 2.
I'm ready. Super ready. Number 2 is the drummer playing with delays, Stewart Copeland playing in Walking on the Moon at about 2 minutes and 7 seconds. When that breakdown happens, the task of emulating another drummer, the task of trying to copy something that you hear that you like, sometimes it is in of itself a lesson, a drum lesson. And when it comes to this song and this breakdown, how he plays with the delays was outstanding. I grew up in a 7-member funk and reggae band in Toronto, Canada, which was a rock and roll city. It was unheard of to be a white kid that was into that. It just wasn't, wasn't the style, wasn't like something that was popular for my demographic, let's say. But
sure.
I ended up in a band with all of my most close family friends, to the point that we were Cub Scouts together. So when we were 10 years old, we were Cub Scouts together. Then jump forward, we're in high school, a couple of different high schools. We still are close family friends, and all of a sudden we all play instruments. And these guys have a band. They need a drummer. I'm like, oh my God, I play drums, kind of. Anyways, I end up being in this band, and all we play is funk and reggae and disco. That's all we played. That's all I knew for the first 5, 6, 7 years of my playing life. That's what I listened to, and that's what I played. So here I was, the only white kid in an all-black funk reggae band, and playing, Bob Marley, and playing Commodore's music and Daz Band, Gap Band, all of the funk stuff. So when I heard this song and this section, here's another white guy playing reggae, and he's using delays much like all of the reggae artists in Jamaica were using. It's just part of the thread of that music. They use a lot of delays sometimes on the drums, and here was the thing. I heard this section, and I wanted to emulate it, but of course I wasn't going to go down the rabbit hole of trying to find out what technical gear they used or delays. So I started to teach myself to play like I was playing with delays. So when you hear a little bit of this section, imagine what it did for me was I used like double paradiddles and 9-stroke, like actual stickings I could play and then be dynamic with them while, playing quarters on my kick drum. I could do this stuff, and it sounded crazy and kind of close to what you're about to hear, especially with hi-hat things. I mean, I do that even now, from that moment of hearing that and going home and trying to figure out how I could do this on my own. Even now, if I'm playing a rock beat, sometimes I might go da da doom doom shut da da, and I'll put a triplet delay myself. It's just in me now. It's there forever since that. Like, since I heard drums having delays on them, I thought, well, that's cool. I can't do it live. I can't. And so I started doing it sometimes. If you're playing a ballad, a halftime ballad, you're playing dun, ka, dun, ska, ka. Once in a while, I'll put in, and I'll tell you, I hear drummers doing that all the time now. Like, a lot of Nashville guys do it live, because it's an effect, say, that they heard on an album that they're not going to, it's only a one-time thing, or it happens a couple of times. So you get used to teaching yourself how to hit hard and do a delay, not changing the dynamic of your right hand. You don't want your right hand to get lower. There's, again, built-in lesson layers in these things that I learned from a young age, just out of default, like just trying to struggle to emulate this or copy that.
Man, your vocals of just you like mouthing drums feels so much better than my actual playing. It's so annoying.
You're so funny, dude. Just that section of playing the hi-hat pattern, the shuffle, and playing all those rims. You playing all those rims. Because he's only playing one, everything, and the delays are doing the triplets. But to go to play those together, and the hi-hat stuff is possible. It's doable. Again, you're pushing your own boundaries. It might not be something that you use in your friggin', your alt rock band, but it does seep in. Like that stuff creeps in so cleverly into your playing eventually that you don't even notice it. You'll do one thing, you're like, where'd that come from? Oh yeah, because I used to listen to that Police song 10 years ago, and I worked on it that one afternoon, and I kind of got it. Like, you start to just put more in your bowl. I always said, if you put 100 things in your bowl, you're really ever only going to play about 10. Like, nobody can actually reproduce or play all the things they've been shown or they've practiced or they've learned or like, there's only a little percentage that sticks with you. So the more, it's kind of cool though, the more that you put in, you do sort of up both of the percentages, right?
Absolutely.
So So again, I spent time figuring that out, because I probably did a lot of those covers in bands as I came up, and so I wanted to, when we got to a section like that, what was I going to do? Like, just play like a simple, no, I want to try and make it sound like there's all these things. And, so that was the challenge of it,
I'm happy you brought up well, technically you brought up cymbals in both of your examples, and it really goes in line with what I think is probably not only just one of your most important videos, but one of the most important videos I think drummers could watch, which is actually to name drop Drumeo. It's like a 7-minute video you did for Drumeo, and I think every drummer should watch it. And the title is How to Make Your Groove Sound Better. You talk about cymbal dynamics and how 99, I mean, I'm saying this, you didn't say this part, but I think 99% of drummers play their cymbals way too loud. And that's how you can kind of differentiate, for me, an amateur to a professional. And everyone should go watch that video because you explain it so well, and then you demonstrate, how you can be more busy, but as long as your dynamics are softer, you can kind of get away with more stuff. And it's kind of what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, you can sneak in a lot of shit, that's for sure. I mean, God. And, some of that stuff you're sneaking in, which is, say, falls under the ghost note category, right? Whether it's cymbals or hi-hats or snare. If you're putting them in, they're also helping your time overall, because the more dissections, if you're just playing quarter notes on everything, it's hard. That's way harder.
Oh my God!
If you're playing, your kick and snare are 1 and 3, 2 and 4, but underneath it, there's these other things that are percolating, whether they're 8th based or 16th based or combinations of that's gonna solidify and where those kicks and snares fall. It's going to give you confidence, and I mean, isn't that really what guys always say? How do I get better feel, or how do I get better time? And conviction and confidence only come from, confidence comes from knowing something really good, and you only know it really good if you've slowed things down and worked on things. But still, all those little helpers that you're talking about, the dynamic things, that's like a grid. Like, if you're playing in the studio, and it's a rock track, you're gonna play dun ka dun dun ka, right? You're gonna play that.
Yeah.
If your click track is quarter notes, which you're already supposed to be playing, gun ka gun gun ka, and what if you're doing pretty good that day and you're right on? The second you're right on, what don't you hear anymore?
Click.
The click track.
Yeah.
As soon as you don't hear the click track, your brain, without telling you, goes, I don't hear the click track. Play a little off so I know that it's there and we're together. And what happens is you actually end up thinking more about playing on the click track because it's only 10. So why not have an 8th note shaker? Why not have something no one else is going to hear it, whether that's live, studio? You can call it, it's kind of cheating though, isn't it? Because now it's really easy to just fit quarter notes over chit, chit, chat, chit, 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 chit. Yeah, sure it is. But the end result is you feeling more comfortable, not thinking about the click now. It feels like there's like a percussionist standing beside you, playing along. You guys are just playing together. And that, therein, you're good to go. Like, the minute you stop thinking about, I need to play in time, I have to be on the click, then you can now be a drummer. You can be a musician and perform. But if you've got that quarter note hammer cowbell, like, to me, that's intimidating. That's like pressure to me. And you don't ever want clicks to be pressure on you. Like, it can't make you feel anxious, you know? So,
well, that makes me feel a lot better. Because I always would prefer, give me 30-second notes, just, you know.
Yeah, right. Who cares? Nobody's going to hear it except you. So, you know, whatever gets a job done. Obviously, there are different ways to work on one's time. And then I really feel that playing with clicks, when you take them away, really just helps your time overall. I mean, it's basically trained you to be in as much time as you can. Of course, we're all human. You take away a click, you're going to drift, you're going to go up and down, but that's okay. That's amazing. But you're not going to, like, leap forward 10 BPM. That's not going to happen anymore. Promise. You know, like, you know.
I love that you're saying this, because you're the authority for two reasons. A, just from the first thing I said, which is you feel good. And we don't have to talk about this because I know that you've talked about it a lot. But I mean, you've gotten the Ringo approval, and that he is the ultimate walking, sitting, whatever he's doing, he is a metronome.
He is.
So you are definitely the authority on that. So that makes me, and the listeners, that makes me feel good.
Kind words. And you keep saying, I feel good. You're such a flirt, man. I mean, really, right on the podcast. I mean, you'd think you'd save it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump into the next one.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm so excited. When everybody was talking about how brilliant, and it was, trust me, I don't think there was a drummer alive that didn't go home and shed Rosanna by Toto and analyze that that Precaro beat. When I heard "Fool in the Rain" with John Bonham by Zeppelin, it was slower, and it's exactly the same elements as far as the triplet thing. It instilled. I know we've probably just talked about this, but it instilled that whole dynamic thing. Actually, you brought it up about the drumming thing, but it really beat home how integral and crucial it was to play my ghost notes way softer than I thought I was playing them. Like, I thought I'm not playing them loud. I'm playing them softer than the big snares. Yeah. And I was, absolutely. But why didn't I would play "Fool in the Rain" and it just didn't sound. I'd listen to it again, and I'd go, okay, the difference between his loud snare and the little guys is way larger than what I'm doing. Like, it's just, there's way more spread there. Like, you know, and to use the proper words, there's way more dynamic range. But regardless of the bigger words, the ghost notes were barely there, and the big ones were in your face. The kick and snare was just smashing you in the face, and all of the triplet stuff was underneath it. Hi-hats, ghost strokes. And that groove, oh my God, you got to just play like 30 seconds of that groove. It's right off the top. I don't need to give you a minute. It goes, it's literally from zero. But, you know, many have attempted to emulate that, but, you know, many have also failed, and the only reason is because that's the key. The key, obviously, having a very smooth triplet feel, but playing that, being able to play your left hand and your right hand soft, but then belt out a snare drum on 2 and 4. That was one of the things that changed my playing forever. You know. It'll be with me forever, and you know when you hear it. You know when you see a drummer, hear a drummer, you hear it on a recording, you see it live, you go, oh, that guy, he gets it. Like, you can see it. You see the spread, the dynamics, the stick heights, and some guys just do it naturally. Some people it's just the way they play. Amazing. But some people, it doesn't come as naturally, so all you needed to do was go, just what you think is soft isn't as soft. Play softer.
I mean, that's it right there.
And it's hard. It's actually hard to do that. And so you got to slow down and blah, 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 all the crap that we do when we learn stuff. But if you know, it's, yeah. So you just take your time, you slow poop down and worry about how hard you're hitting things or not hard. And all of a sudden, you start to realize the world is much bigger when it comes to drumming, because it's not, because it can be all soft or all loud. There's absolutely, dude, if I'm playing a Nirvana type song, I'm going to smash the shit out of that crap. I'm going to use a 20-inch crash and, Godspeed for the well-being of that cymbal. But that's because that you got to have that sound. If you're listening to Van Halen, man, that crash cymbal was like a layer of sound that just went like through the entire, but we talk about the bell of a ride cymbal and all that stuff, and we all know that it's like a fire alarm if you don't keep that under control, and that's where you see it. That's where you see that someone hasn't just taken a second and gone, oh, wait a minute. Crash loud, yes. As soon as I went to my bell loud, no. It's not. it's so annoying, Anyways, yeah.
And it's funny, I like to listen to the solo drum track, which there's a track on YouTube where it's just him.
Amazing.
And he always starts off with the in hell, and then he goes into it. And so whenever I hear this song, I always imagine it starting with that, and then
right. Hey, what would be cool is after you play a little bit of what you just played, play a little bit of the exposed drum beat.
Sure, yeah. I'll drop in the audio.
Play a little bit, play a couple bars of that, and then it's just like, oh my God.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so my next one was just a drum fill moment. Again, the drum fill was awesome, but inside the drum fill, it's actually technically challenging. It's just not all single strokes across toms. It involved toms and feet and phrases. It was a triplet fill, but of course it was phrases of fours instead of threes. So instead of it was and that's how it started. Again, it's so simple to hear and talk about, but when you go and sit down, it takes a moment to wrap your head around playing a four phrase where right, left, kick, right, left, kick, over
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
It's hard. So the famous fill. I mean, I am not alone when I tell you. When everybody heard this one fill in this ballad, people couldn't shut up about it. It was Michael Bland in Prince's tune, Diamonds and Pearls. It was about 2 minutes, 44 seconds. And he starts out with the four phrasing and then goes into regular singles to lead out of the fill, super standard triplets on the toms, but he starts it with a phrases of four over triplets. Standing ovation. Standing ovation right there. Michael, I know you're out there. You're probably in Minneapolis. God love you. Thank you for that. It is, and I believe if you listen closely, the beginning of each of the doubles is flammed. That's another layer of hard, difficult, not easy.
Let me listen to it one more time. You are correct. You are correct, sir.
Oh, yeah. If you thought just playing da-da, like just right, left, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, flam the first stroke, it is not easy, I promise you. But it's an amazing thing to just, why not? Work on it. That's a fill you could steal and use, and it'll work. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How old were you when you heard that? Was that later in your drumming career, or is that when it first came out?
Yes. No. This was when it was released. You know, I mean, it's not that it's how old is that album? Jeez, I don't know, at least a decade.
It's yeah, I can go to it. Go to album.
If not more.
91. There
you go. So 2 decades.
Yeah.
So just to let you know, I want to couple my next one. They're together because Michael also played just the drum beat. Just listen to the first 4 bars of Sexy MF. I'm not going to say the words because it's not good for the kids. But listen to the drum beat and tell me automatically what you don't hear. I'll tell you. You don't hear 2 and 4. They built a song that worked perfectly around this beat. And think about how ballsy that was on the part of Prince as an artist, on the drummer as coming up with this groove and them both going, yeah, that's perfect. I'm gonna, because all the instrumentation is around that groove.
In a word or two, you I wanna do, no, not your body, your mind, you fool. Come here, baby. Yeah. You sexy.
It goes against every, and it's a catchy song. It was one of his more memorable tunes, and there you have this 1, 2, and 1, 2, and there's the main thing. Got to do, got to do, and it's so smooth. It just sails along. It's not like, oh, this is awful. This is, I'm used to the 2 and 4. Why couldn't it be this? No, it didn't need to be. So I just wanted to throw that in because it's the same drummer, same guy. Yeah,
that's amazing. I mean, those are 2 drastically different sounding vibes too.
Oh yeah, totally.
Totally. That's a very like rootsy Philadelphia thing, and the other one was just like showy, and
just anthem. The other one is like a rock anthem. The biggest drum fill in the night is happening right now, and I'm gonna play. And it's amazing. It delivered. That sexy MF groove. Sometimes if I'm just playing a regular swung funk feel, dun cut dun dun cut dun cut, instead of a drum fill, I'll go cut dun 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 dun. And I do it's a little nod, little throwback, but it works perfectly. Again, it's your drum moment, but it doesn't have to be all this, right? Just such a cool groove. Doesn't matter if you ever even use it anywhere. It's great to learn how to swing like that and play that pattern. It's really good. Yeah. I think that's my 5, dude.
That's the 5.
That's
okay.
My 5.
Any honorable mentions?
1, 2, 3.
No, that's.
Oh no! I got 5. I got a 5th one. No. And this is gonna freak you out because guess what? It's not a real drummer.
That's totally fine.
When I heard this drum beat, number 1, my ears were definitely not trained enough out of the gate to know that it wasn't a real drummer. I just heard it and thought, it sounded so difficult, and don't kid yourself, it is difficult, but I thought it was a real guy, and I thought, this is insane. It's not even in 4/4 time. Like, this beat is not in 4/4 time. Of course, not only was it in 4/4 time, but it wasn't a real dude. It was a machine. But interestingly enough, the machine was a vintage drum machine called the Linn drum back in the day. It was from, I believe I wrote down, LM1 was the model. And when you bought this drum machine, it came with pre-existing loops.
Okay.
Some of which were programmed by famous drummers.
Oh, okay. I didn't know they had a little proprietary stuff. Okay.
When you hear this drum beat and I tell you who the drummer is, he was never associated with funk or any kind of R&B in that respect. But you'll hear his style of 16th note craziness instantaneously.
Okay.
And the song is 777-9311 by Morris Day and the Time. Now, if Morris Day and the Time doesn't ring a bell for you or anybody, if you'd ever seen the movie Purple Rain by Prince, Morris Day is the other artist in the movie. They're the competing artists in the storyline. You know, they're playing this club night where, you know, one band plays a song, then another band plays a song. You know, it's kind of like that. And it's, you know, an anthemic movie, by the way. It's just incredible. But this drum beat is in 4/4 time. And I, like many guys, still to come and I tasked myself and challenged myself that I'm going to learn this drum beat. It's not human. It's a machine. But everybody has a little bit of a tiny different take on it, ever so small. But anybody that I've seen do it on YouTube, etc., has come really close or pretty much nailed it. And you'll hear why when you hear it. Because when you program really fast hi-hat stuff, you know, machines can do things. They can open and close hi-hats like unnaturally. Yeah. You know, not like humans do it. So there's a bit of that challenge. But I can tell you, the beat you're about to hear, I can now play and have been able to play for years. And it's a bizarre... It's going to sound funny, but it's almost a rite of passage. It's like, you know, when guys come and go, oh, so you play Zeppelin, can you play Moby Dick? And like, that's their bar. Like, if you can play, you know, you're not good until you can do that. Well, this was like an inside kind of funk player bar. If you said, oh, I play funk, they'd go, oh, yeah? Can you play 779-311? And of course, it wasn't a human being anyways. But when you hear it, the groove, again, this is very much like Prince and Sexy, where it's not a regular drum beat. The snare is not always on 2 and 4, sometimes in this beat, but it's a 2-bar pattern. Top of the tune, play.
That's insane.
It was David Garibaldi, and you can hear it. It was 2 1-bar patterns put together, and you can see the phrasing. If you play just the first bar by itself over and over again, you go, oh yeah, that could be a Tower Power groove right there. That could easily be a Tower Power song. If you play the second beat just alone, you go, oh yeah. You put them together, it's just craziness. But you know, I don't really know the story. I know that Jesse Johnson, who was in Prince's band, was the guitar player who had like a Japanese headband all the time, and he had solo records. Jesse is quoted as saying, you know, yeah, that was the LM1, that was you know, we got that groove, because there's this song and that programming has a little bit of folklore to it as to, you know, maybe it was a real guy playing the kit. No. You can clearly hear that it's just a drum machine playing those songs.
Yeah, there's no way that's, yeah.
But the beautiful thing about that drum beat is the first kick drum is on the E of 1, and that's what throws everyone. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and so in one bar, the snare is on the 2. That's the only regular thing you get. You get 1 E and 2 and 3 and the next snare, instead of being on 4, is displaced 1/16th note, the 4 E. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So inside the groove, you have a little bit of groove, a little bit of regular time.
Yeah.
So both of that last snare and the first kick are off by 1/16th note, and not to mention what the hi-hats are doing. Forget about it. It's ridiculous. That's what makes that groove. Already, just the kicks and snares are hard alone. But adding the hi-hat element in is days and days of, but it's possible. You can emulate it, and if you slow it down, you put a little metronome on, man, when you start to feel that drum beat even slow, like I've just joked around in tunes where it's not even that fast, it's like half speed, and you play that, if you can feel it and you're playing it, it's like, wow, that sounds cool slow. It sounds really cool. 3, 4, just imagine playing a drum fill and going across the bar line by 1/16 note. Just that alone is crazy talk.
Yeah.
It's crazy talk. But once in a while, you sneak that little bad boy in, and
you get fired.
And you get fired, never to be called
Exactly.
again.
Yeah. The Lin drum machine that it came with, that wasn't the suggested tempo of those beats, was it? Or I guess you can kind of program it to whatever.
For sure. For sure. No. But it made for a supremely challenging funk drum groove, that will forever be on the list. Listen, when we talk about drum grooves that like the 10 most essential drum grooves to learn before you die. One of those books.
Sure, yeah.
That's going to be one of them. You're going to get Rosanna, you're going to get a Bonham, you're going to get, but that has to be in there because even though it wasn't played by a drummer, it is emulated to this day and will be, on and on. So I mean, again, learning stuff like that for me, it forced me to slow down. It forced me to think about my hands. You can play things a bunch of ways. When it comes to 16th note grooves, right? You can play or you can play
yeah.
And what makes your choice? Why do you choose what you choose? It depends. Maybe there's a fill coming up or something on the left side of the kit that you need to hit. So you change, like you do things to accommodate the ergonomics of the instrument, right? So that's drum beat forces you. Trust me, I'm not gonna say if you ever have an afternoon that you literally want to waste and never get that time back.
Yeah.
It's still going to add to your musicality, and it's still going to challenge your technical abilities because it's technically ridiculously hard drum beat. It's crazy talk.
Well, and like I was saying earlier, the times when a song starts and I don't know where the one is, because the song, I've already played it, but it starts off with, you're like, okay, this is kind of cool, and then the drums really come in, and you're like, that's not what I thought anything was. Like, what is life?
That has happened to me so many times, and the worst part about it is once your brain hears it the wrong way, good luck
Yep.
learning it. I've actually had to chart out things wrong on purpose so that I can come in right, because I can't. They're like, no, it's all in 4. I'm just starting the guitar lick on the and a 3. It's like it's too late.
Like, nice, Pete.
To me, you're playing. To me, it's a bar of 7, and then I'm coming in. That's it. Game over.
Yeah.
Can't relearn it. It's done.
Whatever you're doing is working, man. So,
Ben, thank you, buddy.
Well, where can people? I mean, where can people find you? I know you also have your own podcast that you've been doing, kind of a newer venture.
We're having fun. It's really not my own podcast. It's actually Adam Gaynor, formerly of Matchbox 20, guitar player, singer, songwriter. It's his podcast, and I'm just his sidekick. But mostly, I just love it when people cruise by the Instagram account. I think I post enough little drumming snippets, and of course, there's my YouTube page that has some stuff there too. So yeah.
Yeah, no, you again, if you want a lesson on how to sit within a song, yeah, definitely go to your YouTube page.
Oh man, thank you.
All right, man, have a good one.
Thanks so much, Ben.
That's the show. Thanks for listening. Be sure to check out bigfatsnaredrum.com and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok at bigfatsnaredrum. The audio you're hearing was edited with Isotope RX Audio Editor. It's magic. So go check that out at isotope.com. This episode is also sponsored by Waves Audio. The podcast would take me so much longer to edit if it wasn't for the Waves Vocal Writer plugin. It rides the fader in real time and keeps both my and my guest's audio at a consistent level without the need to overcompress. I also use an endless amount of their plugins for my musical recordings, such as Abbey Road Saturator, CLA Drums, the SSL channel, and many more. Go check them out at waves.com or click the link via the podcast show notes, and you make us money if you go through that link, which is never a bad thing. So, cheers.